guys, this is Andrew from fearpaintball.net. I got a T9.1 with me today. Of course, stripped down to the pistol form. I'm going to briefly take it apart, show you the differences between the normal one, and go from there. Of course, right off the bat, everyone knows the magazine's different. Set that aside. Now, I do have a very old first generation Tiberius magazine. There's a lot of debate whether the first gen mags can be put into the T9.1. First gen mags can be put into the T9.1, even running the remote nipple. Okay, I'm going to quickly remove screw number 1 here, the one under the trigger guard, and the one in the front, and I'll be right back. Okay, I got the screws removed. What you're going to want to do is remove the trigger pin, and it should come out rather easily. Set that aside, and then slowly separate the two. It should slide right out. This spring here is what rests on top of the safety, or the T9.1s actually have a notch for it. If you can see that right there. Right there. So I'm going to set the trigger frame assembly aside. I'm going to go ahead and remove the barrel. Notice T9.1, T8.1 barrels much thicker than your traditional T9, T8 barrel, also with new upgraded rubber detents. Right there. Spring comes right out. And then you basically have the same assembly right here that you do for the normal T8, T9s. We're going to take that out. Now, as we mentioned in our other video, will be posted here. This can be removed. This is the one that you would use for putting 12 grams or the remote line adapter. This can be removed. You can put the one that comes with the gun in its place. Doesn't have a hole right here, and you can run remote out of the back of the gun. I will show you that in a moment. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. Set that aside. Comes right off. Now, I would like to pause here and mention this T9 wasn't working last night. There was actually, let me see if I can find it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a spring that goes behind that little notch right there. That spring was poking out about this far. It's just one little bar of the spring. It would cause the marker to do sporadic things. The marker wouldn't fire, it would burp fire, it would rapid fire, it would just leak out the barrel constantly. Put that spring back in there, push it goes all the way back and loops under the sear, works fine. This is where you would change the velocity as well. Okay, back to the marker itself. This is the main body of it. This top rail can be removed, and you can install the stock iron sights on it if you wish to do that. Now, the back cap here, yes, you can put a tank straight into the back of this. It's operated by the ASA. In all the way is stopping the air. Pulled out, lets the air into the gun. Okay? Now, you're going to notice three screws here are the same. The third one has a little O-ring around it. That's where the air is going to be going through, right there. So, when you take this off, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here in a second, but when you take this off, at the bottom of this screw, it doesn't go all the way down, there's going to be a very tiny O-ring that sits right here. If that's not in there, the gun will leak. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this and be right back. Okay, here's the normal back cap assembly that you would see on a T8.1. This is what you would replace to put the remote out back adapter on. Here's that very tiny O-ring that I mentioned before. So I want to take this out really quick and show you guys the inside. Now T8.1, T9.1 is going to be different. T8.1, when you pull this out, that O-ring just fell out, it rolled out here. The This cap right here is actually going to have this piece right here attached onto it on the T8.1. There's going to be an O-ring in here. Okay? We were knocking our heads together last night trying to figure out what the heck, why these two were separate. But okay, and you can leave this back cap on. You really have no reason to take it off unless the fill adapter, the remote fill adapter, requires it for the 9.1. I don't know that yet because we don't have one to test out. So now the power tube assembly here, of course I have it already out just a little bit. With these dual O-rings here, it's going to make it a little tough to get out. I actually had to put a squeegee down in that and tap on the squeegee a little bit to get this to pop out. Some people are able to just pop it out right here with a little force where the paintball would be going in and pushing the bolt. I had to get the squeegee out to do it. So take that off, and then of course that's just your body assembly right here, and here is your bolt and power tube assembly, if that's what you want to call it. Okay, so I mean there's honestly not that much to the bolt. Okay, that's the bolt right there. Your power tube, valve assembly, whatever you want to call it, has the two O-rings right here and right here. Oil those. There's also an O-ring inside this if you want to oil it, and an O-ring, if you guys can see it, right inside of there. Put a little oil on that, up and down, put it back. Now, can't stress this enough, when you're putting this back together, okay, what you want to do is drop the bolt down in first, okay? Then you want to take your power tube assembly and make sure it seats in there properly and push it down. Okay. Now you see, since I pushed it so far in there, it's about right there. You want to go in with a smaller Allen key or something and just push that back to where it's not flush against the back of the gun, but there, about right there on the inside of the gun where you can still see the threads. Okay. Also, this is what I wanted to stress: make sure this bolt is forward. If that bolt's not forward, your gun's gonna leak. It's gonna do a bunch of sporadic weird things because it can't reset the sear. So putting it back together, like I said, make sure if you're having problems, make sure that spring right here is behind the sear, and you're just going to line up everything and put it back on there. Somewhat tight, you don't want to over tighten it, but just make sure it's not going to come off there. Okay, I'm going to put the back cap on, which goes right back here. Remember, check and make sure that O-ring is sitting in this hole right down here. Honestly, guys, that O-ring is tiny. That's how big it is right there. Tiny, 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 tiny. So make sure it is seated correctly down there, and then put your adapter back on. Okay, when you come back, just slide the spring down in there like that. You're going to want to wait to put this piece on here till we get the trigger frame. Now, this is the tricky part, okay? With the new clicky trigger, the spring just fell on me. The new clicky trigger, when it goes down into the trigger frame, you actually have to put your finger down there, push this spring so it slides right down in. I'll show you that right. I don't know if I can do it with the camera on, but it has to go down to where the trigger is, so you have to, or where the trigger rests, you have to put your finger on it and just make sure that goes down there. So what I'm going to do now, once that goes down in there, everything should fall into place here. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, once you get everything in there, put the trigger pin back in. First thing you want to do. Fiddle around with the trigger here. There it goes. It should go right in, no problem. And just go ahead and put the screws back on. One in the back. Put the spring down through. Okay, test the trigger. Good. Put your barrel back in. Good. And your magazine, and you're good to go. So That's the T9.1.